Hi there, this is Nils with Learn to DIY, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to install a smart Wi-Fi light switch on a single pull switch like this. So you can do cool things like say, Alexa, turn the master bedroom light off. Alright, so with this video there's a few things that you need to know before you start installing a switch like this. Really, any smart or Wi-Fi light switch requires a few things, and the most important one is that you have access to the neutral line inside your box. Now if you check out this diagram here, you can see that there are typically white wires are your neutrals, and they're connected inside the box separate from the switch itself. So you're going to want to take off the faceplate after you turn the power off and make sure that you've got access to those white neutral lines in there. If you do not have access to those, then you're not going to be able to install this, or at least it's going to be a lot more complicated, more so than we'd cover in this video. The other couple things you want to make sure of are that you have access to a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network. That's kind of a standard thing, but you want to just make sure that you have that. Most routers nowadays output both a 5 gigahertz and a 2.4 gigahertz signal, but most smart devices require a 2.4 gigahertz. So a lot of times you'll see a 2.4G and a 5G Wi-Fi network. You want to make sure that these ones have access and good signal strength for a 2.4G network. So with that, let's go ahead and take a look and see what it takes to get this thing installed. So we're going to start by turning the power off, and then we're going to take off the faceplate, and we'll show you what's inside here. And it's actually a pretty simple install, and I'll show you how to do it with the switches that I've purchased in case those end up being the same ones that you use. Alright, at this point I've turned the power off, and I've just got an outside light source here that I'm using that's plugged in, and I'm going to take off the faceplate. And then the first thing I'm going to do is use my little voltage tester here, just to make sure there's nothing happening. Good. No power. Obviously, the easiest thing is to test just the lights themselves. And then take the switch out. Okay. So inside your light switch, at least a typical one, this house is relatively new. It's about 4 or 5 years old, and so the wiring is in pretty decent shape, but every house is going to vary. But in here you've got your white or your common wires here, and they're usually all screwed together. They're all touching, they're all under this wire cap here, and so these ones are not connected to the switch itself at all. You've got a couple of options for how things are going to be connected here. This isn't necessarily typical. A lot of times you'll just have two wires, one coming here and one coming here, and that's it, plus your ground. So I'm going to loosen the screws here. And again, normally you'd end up with just two like this. Just two black wires is what you'll probably have in your place. So this one's using the push-in, and the push-in's not a big fan. I'm just gonna cut that and then strip a little bit of the wire so I can have access to it. All right, so I'll use my needle nose pliers to straighten out these cords here, or these wires, like that. And same with the ground. With the particular set that I've got for the light switches, they actually don't have screws on them. They just use wires and wire caps, which makes this job, in my opinion, quite a bit easier. Alright, so the light switch that we're going to put in has just 4 wires coming out of it. So it's got 2 load wires or hot wires. One's going to go in this one that was already by itself, and then one will pair with these other 2 that were over here. And again, normally that's just going to be one. Our white one, which is our common or neutral, is going to go inside this wire cap with the rest of these guys. And then our green one will attach to the ground. Green is always ground. Okay, so now I'm all wired up. So now you use your thumbs to squish all these wires back in. So our neutrals are all back in there now. Okay, so now I'll push that back in there, put the ground in there as well. Okay, I'm gonna try to give ourselves plenty of room. These boxes are pretty deep, so you need to make sure you have enough room for them. That should do. Okay, and then I'm gonna test fit here. Looks like we can fit that in there just fine. Thread it through the top here. Okay, so now it's snug. And then I can take the faceplate that came with it and it just snaps right in like that. Make sure there we go, all the way in. Okay, so now it's nice and secure. I've got a good button press action going, so now I'm going to flip back the circuit breaker and make sure the power's on, and then I'll show you how to set this up. Alright, so now the power's back on, and I probably don't need this external light here, but there we go. Okay, so the light's just turned on. So you can see it's blinking pretty quickly. So what I'm going to do is go into my KMC app, and first I'm just going to check. The first thing I'm going to do is just check to make sure I'm on the right Wi-Fi. So I'm going to make sure I'm on that 2.4 gigahertz, which I am. That network of mine is 2.4. And then from here, I'm going to go into my KMC Smart app. Okay, so I'm going to go in here and I'm going to hit the plus to add a device. I'm going to add a wall switch. And then I'm going to confirm that that's blinking rapidly, which it is. All right, and as long as you've put in other devices on this, it'll save your password. So I'm going to hit confirm. All right, so it's going to connect now. I like to do this with the lights on because typically in a few seconds here, this will actually go solid and then the lights will switch off, which is a good sign. There we go. Okay, so the light switched off, which means it's controlling it. Okay, so it went to about 75% and then connected. Now I'm just going to give this a name. Okay, so I've added that. Now I hit done. And then if I just tap that, lights turn on. Okay, so now I've got this as one of the lights that I can control, just like that. And it's connected, and I can add this to other scenes or other routines with Alexa if I'd like. Alexa, turn off Anders' room light. There we go. Alexa, turn on Anders' room light. Cool. All right, so now it's working and we're good to go.